What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of Beyond the Physique podcast. Today is the art of delayed gratification. Today I have with me Coach Shelby. So we'll jump right into it. So, Coach Shelby, what exactly is delayed gratification to you?
So delayed gratification is, in my opinion, it's the ability to put aside immediate reward for a bigger reward, but later down the road.
Yeah, that's like a little more meaningful.
Exactly. It requires a lot more patience and discipline, but it does in turn give you a bigger reward down the road instead of a smaller one in that moment.
Yeah. So instead of reaching for instant gratification, we're looking for something larger down the road that might cause some things you have to overcome. So you might have to prioritize.
Exactly.
Point.
So in your opinion, what are some traits that you feel a person who has the ability to delay gratification have?
So people that have mastered like the art of delayed gratification, in my opinion, are people that they're like the doctors. They're the people that are winning on stage. They're the people that have developed their own businesses. And they're the people that you see winning because they're able to have self-discipline. They have self-confidence. So discipline is the ability to actually overlook the immediate impulses. So to see a larger goal. So like in the example of like a doctor, right? So you have a lot of time in school and your friends are going out, they're having fun. And maybe they're doing fun activities that aren't even going to be against your fitness goals, but you have to study. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So right then you're making a choice between immediate gratification and delayed. So the self-confidence thing, to me, that's built through following through on commitments that you've made to yourself. Mm-hmm. So like when you say you're going to get up at 5 a.m., do you? And the more times you don't, the
worse you feel about yourself.
Yep.
It really does just go in a circle.
Yeah. So self-confidence that they've basically made commitments to themselves and followed through with it. They have patience. This is one that they practice active patience, I would say, more so than just traditional patience. Because patience is like, for the example here of like using affirmations and stuff, like you can look in a mirror and just say that I'm this person, I follow through on what I say, mm-hmm. right? And I am a healthy person, I make those decisions nutritionally. But until you actually put that action in play, then you can be patient all you want, but patience without action is just kind of worthless.
Exactly.
So I'd say they practice active patience.
Correct.
So they are patient on the goal, but they're not giving up on the tasks at hand that require you to achieve that. Resilience, looking at things as learning opportunities versus failures. So there's truly not any failures in life because it's always an opportunity mm-hmm. to learn. And this is something that I've learned very, very personally. I've, overcome alcoholism, and in that time, I've definitely had to learn to be resilient. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it goes back to like the black and white thinking. Like just because something doesn't go the way that you think it should go doesn't mean that it's never going to happen for you. Do you know what I mean? Like for example, I'm my personal bodybuilding experience so far, like just because I have done 2 shows and have not yet gotten my pro card doesn't mean it's not going to happen for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's I feel like resilience has a lot to do with that in the middle gray thinking. That's so important. Like just because it doesn't happen for you now doesn't mean you're a failure, and it doesn't mean that it's never going to happen for you.
Yeah, and if something bad happens, it's an opportunity to learn from it and become better.
Of course.
Know what I mean? It's all about how you look at it. So I made a post recently about like an objective look in the mirror.
Of course, yeah.
So if you can look at yourself and say, boy, like if I didn't eat X, Y, and Z like I could or like I did last week, I would look so much better, right? And you can either take that information and beat yourself up over it, or you could just take that and apply it to next week and not make those mistakes. And then make those same things happen the following week, and then continue to habit stack better.
Because it does have a rolling effect. Like, if you continue to say you're going to do those things and then not do them and then beat yourself up about it, you are just going to beat yourself down deeper and deeper and deeper. Whereas if you look at it like, okay, yeah, this week may have not been the best nutrition wise, but next week, like, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to hit, my nutrition goal 5 out of the 7 days.
Yeah.
And then you go that way and you're like, man, I felt great when I did that. Like, let's do it again. Like, it tumbleweeds the other way.
And with the self-observation thing too, like, it doesn't always have to be super negative. Mm-hmm. You could say, this week, like, here's how I could be better. I did miss a workout this week, so next week I'm going to adjust my schedule to make sure that doesn't happen. Or basically I'll have maybe a contingency day. If I'm not able to go on Thursday, I can go on Friday, because you shouldn't be training 7 days out of the week. You should be able to adjust some things. So that resilience is basically being able to overcome the setbacks and come at them with like a learning opportunity, like an opportunist type mindset. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, that didn't work. I tried a Phillips head in a flathead slot, and it just didn't turn the screw. So now I just got to try something different.
Exactly.
Like, if I get emotional over choosing the wrong tool and, oh my God, then we're never going to turn the screw. We just have to go.
And I feel like that leads someone to then not want to kind of pursue that characteristic of resilience in the sense of delayed gratification. I feel like when someone has those issues where, they choose the wrong tool a couple times, and then they're just like, oh, you know what? We'll just focus on the now then. Exactly.
And emotional intelligence. So knowing your emotions, and then being able to be in tune with like others' emotions, and then not throwing your emotions on the people around you. And then being able to manage your own emotions through certain tough processes. So, we're human beings, we're emotional beings. So, I mean, as much as, men and women have differences, but man, most dudes are still pretty emotionally driven, I
agree.
So, with that being said, realizing when you're being emotional and illogical, and being able to not get upset with yourself, but decision make based on knowing that.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I feel like it's delayed gratification in today's world is kind of a rare thing to find, because I feel like the world we live in today is so instantly gratifying, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want something, you just get on Amazon and it's there the next day.
And think about relationships too in this day. Like, people are getting ghosted left and right. Why? Because of social media. They can just go find another one. Like,
exactly.
And they're like, we lose the value of people in that.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything around us today is instantly gratifying, which is why I don't like when I see someone like with a good physique, for example, I know for a fact that they do not rely on those instantly gratifying characteristics, and like, it's attractive. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not like the average person today.
You're talking about attractive from
an emotional standpoint,
different way than physically.
Exactly. Like, I know
have the characteristics and the traits of somebody that can be successful in other areas of their life.
Nailed it. Like, that is completely on point. 100%. Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So
definitely. Yeah, when you see somebody that's got a built physique, like, you immediately think like, okay, they got their shit together, because that doesn't happen overnight. Like,
no, it doesn't. It takes years and years and years of continuing to show up, regardless if you're picking the wrong tools or not.
Right.
Like you said before, like, they continue to show up for themselves and they figured it out, and it's so emotionally attractive to see a person who has those characteristics, because I feel like it is so few and far between these days.
Yeah. And I think ultimately relationships nowadays lack that instant gratification, or they lack the long-term delayed gratification of wanting to have something like an empire with a person.
I agree.
Versus having a bunch of instant whatever.
Yep.
And then we lose sight of that in relationships, I think. And for some people, like, it can go as far as getting in an argument in ending a relationship early just because you know that there's other options out there, and the little dopamine response you get from being right is worth throwing away an entire, and I've seen this, and obviously we're talking more on like the bodybuilding and success and life aspect here. We're not like the relationship doctors here, but I think the point of this is people that have mastered the art of delayed gratification can apply that to all areas in life.
Dude, they've mastered a ton of other areas.
Yeah.
If you master delayed gratification, it will literally change your life for the better in so many ways. I can't even describe it.
Right. Yeah. Like if you just realize that, boy, if I somehow found it possible to make it to the gym 4 or 5 hours a week, and then and spent 4 hours a week meal prepping, like, okay, we're talking 9 hours here.
Yeah.
10 hours. And you could transform the way you look, the way you feel, the way you perform.
Your mindset, your abilities, so many things.
Markers,
yep.
Blood work.
And that just goes back to the thing where it's like, you know what? In 4 years, it's going to be 4 years from now anyway. Like, you want your life to look exactly how it looks now because you can't stop.
And good luck, because it's only going to get worse. You're only going to get better. You're only going to get worse.
Yeah, in 4 years, why wouldn't you want your life to be exponentially better? Like, why wouldn't you think that you deserve that? Because you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just, I think, an emotional intelligence thing and giving in to impulses.
So, in your opinion, like, where do you see the delayed gratification in coaching, or like where do you see in life or in personal experiences, like the instant gratification? Like, what are your experiences with that? So
I'll say from a coaching perspective, I can immediately tell how somebody is when they start working with me, like how much gratification, or like how much instant gratification they're looking for. And I would say that the more experienced and the better the person is in shape currently that comes to me, they've kind of got it mastered. And then it's the people that are just starting that are trying to get it figured out. And my job as a coach is really to direct them to getting that figured out, because a lot of times it's not a matter of them not understanding delayed gratification. It's just this method of it or this application, because we have physicians on our roster, multiple, you know what I mean, and it's just a matter of taking, okay, so you've been able to get this degree and go so far and beyond in your education that other people can't even fathom. I can't even fathom,
right?
You know what I mean? And all you have to do is apply that same thing, that same discipline that you did, like when you were in college and all your friends wanted to go out and you had to study.
Yeah.
Right? That same thing when they're eating all this bullshit, you can just eat something not bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Oh. Just apply that same thinking that got you so far in this other area. And then all you have to do really, from my perspective, is point them to like their past experience with it and how to apply that now. Yeah.
And it's not something that happens overnight either. Like, you're not going to wake up you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm going to meal prep every single meal for the rest of my life and only eat chicken and rice and hit every single workout. It's something that happens over time, but it is a mindset shift, in my opinion. It's more emotional and mental than it is a physical.
Yeah, and your decisions get better over time, but it's coming from a better place when you have that delayed gratification mindset.
Yep.
So you may not order the perfect meal, right, if you're just getting started. But if your mindset is towards eating something that does fit your goals versus just, fuck it, I'm at a restaurant, then that shift over time is only going to become better.
Exactly. Like, what do you want? Do you want the whole cake now? Or do you want, do you want to look the way you want to look in 2 years? Like, it really does come down to what you want personally and just going off of that and basing your actions off of that.
That's it. Matching your goals with your actions.
Yep. And that in turn makes you feel better because you're like, yeah, this is what I wanted. I took the steps to get that and I did that. And then that just fuels you even more to want more for yourself in the future, which is really just such a good feeling.
Yeah. So for yourself, where do you see some self some instant versus long-term gratification applications?
So for me personally, like I had mentioned earlier, my bodybuilding, like I want to do a show tomorrow. I want to get back on that stage. I know I bug you about it weekly. Yeah. But you know what? Like I know for a fact if I were to get on stage tomorrow, I wouldn't win a pro card. I'm not there yet. So for me, it's just showing up to the gym every single week, hitting my nutrition goals as often as I can during this off season, and realizing that in 2 years, I will be that much closer physique wise, mentality wise, emotionally wise to getting my pro card.
Yeah, we'll have another full year and a half of growth, not just lean tissue and physiologically, but from your mentality.
Oh yeah, because it's a mental thing too. But yeah, just continuing to show up, even though I know it's not coming anytime soon, but that is a goal that I have, and keeping that in the forefront and like realizing that I need to take actions on a daily basis to get to that goal in 2 years is something that I have personally experienced when it comes to delayed gratification.
Yeah. So would you say that certain people they give in to instant gratification because they don't truly have like an overarching goal?
Yeah, I would say that. I feel like, again, with today's world that we live in, it's really, really easy to kind of become depressed or just kind of beat yourself up because you see these people doing all of these things and you're like, oh man, like I wish I could have that. I wish. And it's like, you can. But you have to do the stuff to get there. Like, oh, I wish I could look like her. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing now that is going to make you look like her? Nothing. Right. So, like, take the steps to do it, and you could do it and feel better. And then I feel like that, in turn, kind of puts people's goals in perspective because they realize that they're worthy of having them. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, with social media, and, you know, we're in the bodybuilding sport. I mean, you're looking at the top physiques in the world. Mm-hmm. And for any of the athletes that work with me coming up to show day, you'll hear me tell you, like, stay off of social media, man.
It's so bad.
Comparing yourself. Because there's a lot of things, like, you'll compare yourself to a girl on the Olympia stage with her tan fully peaked, and I'm like,
who's been lifting for 8+ years,
enhanced,
exactly.
And I'm like, okay, but you're 7 weeks out
from a natural show, and it's your second one. Yeah, like relax.
Yeah. So, yeah, right. So the comparison thing prevents you from, or not prevents you, but I see it preventing people from moving forward because they're intimidated by high achievers.
I agree. And you should be motivated by them. Yeah. Like, I see these top, I don't know, I think I've talked to you about her before. Amy Delgado, yeah. She placed, I believe, 6th, if I'm not mistaken, in the Olympia last year. And I don't look at her physique or her posts and think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not doing enough. I wish I looked like her. Like, she's been lifting for years and years and years. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, she's done more than me, and she's been doing it longer than me to get where she is. I look at that as a motivator. Like, I want to look like her. Yeah. I'm going to do whatever I have to look like her and get on that stage. Yeah. So it's definitely a mindset thing.
For me, it was like a Derek Lunsford thing.
Yeah.
I fucking like that dude. Damn.
I know.
Well, I mean, obviously, like, it's not just Derek Lunsford, but that's another one, like, well, he's a short guy. So I kind of resonate with that. So I see him, and I'm like, you fucking go, man.
Yeah, like, you're doing it.
Man, I have, like, a long way to go. But also, at the same time, it's motivating because here's another example of a human being that said, Matt, here's what I'm going to do. So he did it.
And literally just did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. I think blocking out your fears on that one is... I think a lot of people are on this, too. A lot of people are afraid to try because they're afraid to fail.
Which is the black and white thinking again. Like, it's fine. I fail all the time on a daily basis. I still make mistakes and I still fail and have all these issues, but I'm not stopping because I know what my goals are. I know that I'm worthy of achieving my goals, so I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get there, and if that's failing 1,000 more times, then that's what it is, you know?
Yeah. And that feeling worthy of attaining that goal is a big thing. Mm-hmm. What do you have for, like, mindset work on feeling that? Because for me, it's about identifying with that type of person. Like, I am the Trevor that makes like nutritionally good choices.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You
You're
know what I
good.
mean? So like, you know, I have my protein shake, my bagel, I got my chicken and rice, I'm gonna have my beef and potatoes.
I think it goes back to like the overarching view of like self-confidence and all those traits you mentioned earlier. Like, do you want to be like, when you walk into a room, right? Do you want to be the person that people are like, oh, you know, they don't work out, you know, they don't take care of themselves, you know, that they don't have their life together? Or when you walk into a room, do you want people to be like, man, that girl or that guy has got their shit together?
Yeah.
Like, physique, great. Like, they definitely take care of themselves. They're well kept. They're organized. Like, they're emotionally intelligent. They can hold a conversation. Like, it really just comes down to, who do you want to be? Because you can be whoever you want to be. And it's awesome.
It is.
But you got to pick, right? Like, you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't
have to identify with that person and then back that up with the actions.
Yeah, you can't, you know, say, you know, you can't not take care of yourself and then, you know, expect results the same way someone who takes care of themselves, like the same results they're going to get. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And kind of like moving on to more of like the chemical side of things. Obviously, I'm not, you know, like a neurologist or any of that, but just like for today's world also, like the dopamine hits are so real, dude. Like, for example, I got over 10,000 likes on one of my Instagram posts, dude. I literally felt the dopamine in my brain
just
going
exploding
off from the instant gratification, and I recognized how unhealthy that was, and I literally didn't get on Instagram for 24 hours because the dopamine hits are so real. So, you know, if you're
sales tip, that 24 hours after that 10,000 likes is like a key.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Go. Anyways.
Okay, anyways, yeah.
So maybe like ride that wave and then come back later.
Yeah, whoops. See, failure. And we're learning, and
right?
exactly. So like, you know, if you're going through McDonald's and you're getting a Coke and your brain is like, oh, this is so good, you're gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so hard to start off, because you have to break that cycle of that feeling good and get into the idea like, okay, this workout might not feel good, but you know what, in a month you're gonna feel awesome. You're gonna be so strong and feel so much healthier and better about yourself.
And you know what, I, as an in-person trainer with training people that never lifted a weight in their life, they would as out of shape as they could be. Even after the first workout, they would tell me that at the end of it, they felt good.
Yep.
So I've yet to hear anyone tell me that at the end of their workout they don't feel good, unless, and I'm going to say that specifically with me, because there are like some CrossFit people out there that'll just like make you do dumb shit till you throw up. And
it's awful.
Yeah. So, but here we're talking about like training smart.
Like, like more bodybuilding type of things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just subtle plugs. Yeah, I mean, same with my experience. Like, I have plenty of athletes on my roster that it's like they don't know. It's like to no fault of their own, they just don't know. So like you said earlier, it's our job as coaches to like teach them how to really take care of themselves mentally and physically. And you know, they'll do their first or second workout and they're like, man, I have never felt so good. And I'm like, ride the wave. Exactly.
Like, check this out, eat those meals too. Let's do this.
Okay, so one of my athletes that I have, she was like, you know what, I'm finally ready to like really buckle down. Like, I want to do this. I'm like, let's go. So she followed her nutrition plan, and after the first week, she's like, I'm not bloated, I'm not tired, I'm not like, I feel so good, I can't even describe it. And I'm like, this is that shit. Awesome. This is so cool. It's what I live for. I love hearing that.
Like, man, that's great. Like, you're not hungry. Like, I've got a couple of people right now that every check-in they put on their thing that they're stuffed, and then they make a note of it that they're eating too much. But we're in a cut phase, and we're losing 1.5 pounds a week. Yeah, it's the food choices.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like same here. I have athletes on my check-in. They're like, I can't eat another bite, and I'm like, you dropped 3 pounds this week. What are you talking about? And you feel great. Yeah, like you're fine. Eat. Yeah, because they're making better food choices.
Yep. And you got rid of that McDonald's Coke and going through the drive-through for the quick cheeseburger, and then now
that stuff adds up, man.
It does.
It adds up so much.
And the thing is, the dopamine hit almost it outweighs the negative to it immediately. So it only takes until the long term to see the actual benefit,
which is literally the definition of instant gratification. You know?
Like, when you go get that McDonald's Coke, the McDonald's Coke is fine, but you do the McDonald's Coke 30 times in a row for 30 days. I mean, I would compare that to, like, okay, maybe get a water and go to the gym for 30 days.
Exactly.
And then, I don't know. I mean,
everything in moderation is fine, but if you let your brain tell you that because that McDonald's Coke was good in this moment, it's okay to do it every single day for the next, month,
and
2
also,
months.
after I drank that Coke, I wasn't immediately fat after.
Exactly. So you're not seeing, but that adds up.
Right.
All that sugar.
It's the habits that add up in the background that are either carrying you forward or pulling you down.
100%.
Yes, ma'am. So I also think that we're kind of conditioned towards instant gratification now. And I see it with some younger generations and our generation. I mean, with phones. So just from a content creation standpoint, like 3.5 or like 7-second reels are like ideal, right? With 2 3.5 second clips, with in between those some kind of transition. So we need every 3/4 of a second something to change to hold our attention for 7 seconds.
Yep.
And that's what marketing is telling us that we need to do to hold attention.
Because everybody's attention spans have gone down the drain because they are instantly gratified all of the time.
TikTok, Instagram Reels, Tinder.
Yeah, and if an Instagram reel, and I was guilty of this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that I'm any better. Like, if an Instagram reel is longer than a minute, I'm like, eh.
Yeah, I'm not watching it.
Like, you want something that grabs your attention instantly. Little
things that, like, if it's educational, I might watch
it.
Same,
but
I'm a nerd. But
yeah, just like in general, I find myself doing those things, and I have to stop and be like, oh my gosh, like that. I need to rethink this. This is not good.
And we're connected to our phones, and then in turn, that little connection to our phone reconditions us towards that instant gratification. And then when you set your phone down, you don't have those constant dopamine hits.
Yeah.
If those donut holes are sitting over there, you might be able to get it from that.
Exactly.
Right? And after you eat that one donut hole, you're not going to feel very bad. But you continue to make that a habit. It's about the habits over the long term.
100%.
For sure. So in the sport of bodybuilding, I think it's ultimately the overarching trait that needs to be in existence is the art of delayed gratification. Because if you cannot focus on your long-term goal and make your short-term actions based on that, then you're not going to go very far.
And that's not saying you have to miss out on things either. You can still have your big goal in the distance and realize okay, I can still get there. And it's really just about everything in moderation and not doing that black and white thinking. That's so unhealthy.
Yeah. And there's a lot of little things that goes into it. What's your definition of fun? Is fun surrounded by being intoxicated, getting drunk, eating food? Or is it connecting with friends and being outside, being active? There's a lot of different ways to have
maybe
fun.
You need to change your circle. Maybe you need to change the people in your life to get where you want to go.
That is a fact. I mean, that old saying, you're the sum of the 5 people around you.
You really are, though.
It's the truth. Yeah. That's why these strategic coaches, we're not fucking around.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We got it going on over here.
Yeah, we do. So, in bodybuilding specifically, Shelby, what would you say are some examples of activities or habits that are based on instant gratification versus long-term?
So, I would say probably an example could be, I don't know, prep, I guess.
Yeah.
You're so hungry and you just want to be instantly gratified. You just want to feel full in that moment. but waiting and not cheating on your diet and not, going to grab that extra little snack that you're not supposed to have because you want to go on stage and be the best that you can be and know that you did everything that you could have. Because that's something that I struggled with my first prep. I cheated on my diet. I binge ate 10 Rice Krispie treats like a month out from the show, and I remember I called you and Tatiana, I think, and I was
conversation. And
so I made sure this show I did not cheat on my diet once, and I got up there and because I wanted to feel like even if I don't win, I did everything that I could have to get where. So
you left no stone unturned.
Right, but I didn't instantly gratify myself one time during this prep because I knew it would benefit me in the long run.
Different package this year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it really does benefit you, like just waiting and not, kind of like tuning out those thoughts. Like, I'm so hungry, my muscles are so sore, all these things. Like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you want something 6 months from now and you're going to get that, but you just have to stay on track.
What about like skipping parts of your workout or like dropping workout intensity?
I would say that's a no-go. You shouldn't do it, man, because it all adds up. You miss, you're like, oh man, I'm so tired. I don't feel like doing these hamstring curls. And it's like, all right, well, the girl next to you is going to have better tie-ins then.
Great.
So just do it. Exactly. What do you want? You want to go home and take a nap, or you want to win? Like, that's literally what it is. And that goes in.
And your actions will determine what you actually want. Because what you say you want and what you do to show that you want it are two completely different things.
Exactly.
And if they are different things, then that's going to lead to some internal battles.
Mm-hmm. And those aren't fun.
No.
Those really, and it'll just send
Cognitive
you into a
dissonance.
spiral. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Science,
yeah.
So I would say another thing I see is like some high-risk drug protocols trying to speed up timelines really just to speed up timelines.
And that's instantly gratifying too.
Yeah.
Because, you're enhanced, you go to the gym, you lift, and weeks later it's like, oh my God.
Let's be real, like this is bodybuilding and nobody's saying anybody's completely natural. But what I'm talking about is like the high-risk protocols for classes that don't matter, that don't require it, right? So if you're competing in bikini, there is no reason you should have any signs of virilization because the class doesn't require it that much tissue to the point where you need so many androgens to put yourself at risk. So if that's the case, I truly think that you just tried to shorten the timeline with androgens, and by covering up that hard work with some drugs, that high-risk protocol, it leads to some issues. So
I agree.
And I should also clarify, virilization is basically the masculinization of a woman. So some things that happen with that are like deepened voice, acne, clitoral enlargement, and some things are reversible and some things are not. So if your voice drops, for example, that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, from this point forward.
So
that's another thing going back to what do you want?
Right.
Are you willing to wait a few years, or do you really in your mind think it is necessary to do all of those high-risk drug protocols to get what you would get anyway in 6 years in 3 years?
Right.
How patient are you?
It's truly a game of patience. So, and that's not to say that there aren't classes, women's physique, women's bodybuilding, wellness,
right,
figure. But I would say women's physique, women's bodybuilding, those are your higher risk categories, divisions. And with that, there's some risk acceptance with that. And that's because they're just going so far beyond our genetic capability.
But they know what they want.
But they know what they want.
They are willing to risk that for their goals. They've come to terms with that. And
then ultimately, a lot of those people, you see fairly low levels of virilization for the amount of things they've used. So usually if they're coached well, and to be at the IFBB level in women's physique or women's bodybuilding, or even to carry that kind of tissue, you probably have a good coach, or you're a good coach yourself and understand some things. So it takes that. So some other things I see is like cheap, easy meals, ordering out when you should be eating your own food, preparing your own food.
Yep.
Not necessarily weighing your food accurately, just to get things done quicker.
And when you do that, you don't know what you're ingesting.
Right.
Which is fine. You know, I'm not saying you can never go out to eat again, but overarchingly, like, why wouldn't you want to prepare your own food so you know what's in it?
Right.
Like, it will help you get to your goals so much faster. Like, eating out is fine, but should you be eating out every single day? Probably not.
If there's 3 things that you have to do to achieve the goal that you want, it's like, okay, you have to prepare your own food. Mm-hmm. You have to work out. You have to sleep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. That pretty much sums it up.
So, like, why are we going to throw away a third of that and just go eat out? Anyways, that's just...
Yeah, no, those things are all... those definitely all play into the goal as well, because if you're doing... You know, if you're eating right and you're getting sleep, but you're not working out, okay, you're not building muscle. If you're working out and eating right and you're not getting sleep, well, that's going to be hard to lose the fat.
I always compared this to, like, getting a kitchen remodel, okay? So you have to pay the workers, and then you have to buy the materials and everything. Okay, so then you have to give the people time to actually build the kitchen, right? So when you go to the gym, you're paying the workers, right? If the workers show up and there's no lumber, they can't do shit while you're sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So there's no food, so they can't build your kitchen. But if you eat the food, you give them the lumber, and you pay the workers, but you don't go to sleep, they don't have the time to build it. So then you don't have it built. So that's my thing. It's like,
that's a really good analogy. I've never heard of that. That's really cool.
That's how I explain that. You got to pay the workers, they got to have time to do it, and they got to have the materials to do it. So you don't have all 3, then
it's not going to work. Exactly.
Yeah. So like when they say, like, what's most important, the training, the nutrition, or the sleep?
All of it.
I'm like, well, we can't have like 2 without the other.
Exactly.
I mean, you can, but you're just not going to see what you want.
Right.
It's super important. So physical health, mental health, super intertwined.
Yes, very intertwined. You know, I feel like there's so many people who don't realize how much their mental health affects their physical health.
Yeah.
And how much their mind is literally roadblocking them from meeting their goals. And again, that's our job as coaches. Like, we have to help people kind of realize that they have the ability to literally shift their mindset and the way that they think in order to physically achieve what they want to achieve.
And it's not always from a perspective of restricting what you're doing. Sometimes it's so I just signed an athlete, and not dropping anything, but she said, "Oh, I don't know. I have a dinner this week. Is that going to be an issue?" And I'm like, "Why would that be an issue? Like, you're not in prep."
I have so many athletes like that as well.
I'm like, okay, why don't we look at the menu and decide what you can eat that's sustainable? Because obviously, the mindset previously was like a balls to the wall approach. Do everything that you can just to get the fat off. And then
but guess what? It didn't work.
Later. Yeah.
It didn't work because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, what happens when you get there?
Exactly.
We haven't learned how to, like, eat to stay there.
Right. You don't have to go out and order fried pickles or, you know, the jalapeno poppers or any of that stuff.
And then followed it up with a steakhouse and said, I think I'm just going to get a filet mignon and a potato. And I'm like, okay, well, I have red potatoes and 93 beef for your dinner anyway, so...
Exactly. Like, it's not... and good. I feel like a lot of people just don't realize, like, they see all these things on social media and all these people dropping weight like that because, you know, keto, for example. Yeah. You completely cut out carbs. Yeah, that is so not sustainable whatsoever. Yeah. Because you know what? Your body is, like, craving those when you're done. It's almost like a prep. And it's so hard... If you don't have a coach or someone there, like, guiding you through it, like, you're just going to gain all that weight back.
Yeah.
So just making healthier choices overall and not restricting yourself, you know, if you're not in prep or, like, adding things in, I feel like is another approach to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. So ultimately, the art of delayed gratification is the key to really achieving anything bigger than a small goal. Whether it be starting a business, getting in shape, getting on stage, getting your pro card.
It applies to everything.
Literally everything.
Everything.
Relationships, your job, etc. Shelby, do you have any last minute thoughts?
Just, like, you really do have to put yourself first sometimes and realize that you are worthy of reaching your goals that you have for yourself, and realize that those goals are going to take time. They're not going to happen overnight. And, do you want $10 today, or you want $100 next week? It's really, it really is just what you want and what you're willing to do to get there. Yes,
ma'am. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Feel free to give us a follow on Instagram at Strategic Aesthetics. I will tag myself and Shelby's information in the show notes. With that, have an awesome week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you so much for having me. Have an awesome week, you guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Physique podcast. If you enjoyed this and would like to hear more like it, be sure to subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram at Trevor W Training, on YouTube at Strategic Aesthetics, on Facebook, Trevor Woodyard, and you can also apply for coaching at strategicaesthetics.com.